To the Turn On Your Inner Light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Michael Sandler. He's coached athletes for over 20 years. With a titanium femur and a titanium hip, he is able to run 10 to 20 miles per day, pain-free, and is the author of Barefoot Running. Your feet are free as opposed to expensive sneakers, so consider that in this economy. Welcome, Michael.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
Now, what is your story? How'd you get into barefoot running?
Well, I got into barefoot running by accident, and that's literally. So I'd been a professional athlete and coach. I never went anywhere barefoot. I didn't even get out of bed barefoot. But in 2006, while training for a big skate across the country, I was sponsored by Rollerblade to do a large charity event. While training for that, I had a near-death accident where a father teaching a baby how to walk stepped out onto a bike path. He was a tourist. He didn't know it was a bike path directly in front of me on my skates. And in that moment, I had a decision to hit the baby or hit the deck, and nobody hits a baby. And I threw myself down, and my entire world changed.
Based on that kind of heroic. So what happened to you physically? And then mentally, of course.
Well, physically, and it's great that two different sides of things. Physically, I was pretty badly shattered. For some reason, I decided after I hit the ground to take my left leg and swap it up over my right, and that's probably what saved my life, because what was left of the femur, the shards of bone, were less than a centimeter from the femoral artery. And had I not done that, I probably would have bled to death. It did leave me with a shattered femur, a shattered hip, a shattered arm. They had to actually drill through my knee to put things back together. And now because of it, I have a titanium femur, titanium hip. I've had 10 knee operations. I have a hole where my ACL used to be. Now I have an inch leg length discrepancy. And all of the shock absorber that's in your knee, that was removed as well. And so I was told at first they didn't know if I'd be able to keep my leg. And thankfully they were. And then they said that I would never be able to run again. And fortunately, things changed there. Now, mentally, it's interesting. Before the accident, I'd been in a creek. My feet were killing me. I'd been known as Mr. Plantar Fasciitis. So I'd had my skates off, and I'm in a creek praying and meditating for safety and guidance just before the accident and asking, how in the world are my feet going to hold together? And when I got out of the water, I'd been listening to an MP3 audiobook by Dr. Wayne Dyer talking about how everything in life happens for a reason. And those words were still resonating in my head as the accident occurred. So after the accident, I'm laying on the ground. I'm completely broken. But I look, boy's okay, dad's okay, sun's still shining, fingers work, toes work. Life is good. Life is good, I thought to myself. I'm like, everything in life happens for a reason. There must be something beautiful and positive that's going to come out of this. And if I want to survive, I'm going to have to make sure something beautiful and positive does come out of this.
And that's in the midst of intense pain. I mean, you raise the bar very high for all of us, but it shows you, be careful what you wish for, be careful what you meditate on. I mean, who would have thought, I mean, that kind of purity would translate in being slammed down. So at this point, you are told you can't run. Now, how do you kind of garner that ability, which we could all learn from when doctors say it can't be done?
Well, it's a really funny answer, which is I've had several challenging accidents in my life. One when I was 10 years old on the bicycle, and then another time when I was racing in Europe in '93 when I had a safety on a bicycle, had a safety official wave me through a blind turn into an oncoming car. And as the doctor in the French hospital later told me, he said, "You hurted the automobile." Like, au contraire. But these accidents taught me something very important, because each time the doctors told me what I couldn't do. When I was a child, they said, by the age of 12, you have arthritis, you're going to struggle with walking by the time you're 18. Well, I became a professional cyclist. In '93, when I got injured, and they told me, your career is over, you're never going to be able to do any of this stuff again, it took me many, many years of rehab, because I didn't know how to work with my body. But I wasn't willing to accept that answer, and I actually got back to the top level again. And so what I learned from this is that we are the only ones in charge of our body. The doctor doesn't know us as well as we do, and doesn't know what we will do, what steps we could take to heal ourselves. So if we have that inner vision, that target, like a dartboard in front of us, and we keep aiming for that target, which is, I'm going to heal, and no matter what anybody else tells me, I'm going to find a way to heal, there's a very good chance you're going to get there. And so when this accident occurred, my initial thought was, well, of course I'm going to heal. I don't have any idea how. In fact, I can't get my head off of this hospital bed pillow for the first few days, but I'm like, I'm going to heal from this, and I'm going to come out stronger.
Now, that's the mindset of a true athlete. See it, rehearse it in your head, and do it. How would you advise the layman, who works out a little here and there, to cull that faith that the mind can tell the body what to do and the body will actualize it?
Well, anyone can do it. It's not magic. It's just a belief system or knowing. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Now, I did have training on my side. I've been through things like this before. But the great news is we can all, at any point in our lives, flip the on switch, like flipping the light on, and go for it. Now, I will say this. If you're healing from something, and this is a challenging thing to hear, it's time to become a professional athlete. You have to become a professional if you want to heal. And what that means is dedicating yourself to healing and taking those necessary steps to healing. And now they can be baby steps. They can be tiny little incremental steps forward. But it means looking at your total piece of the puzzle, everything from when you get up in the morning, the messages that you give to yourself, or in a meditation, what you say to yourself for healing, start to plant those seeds, to what you
And that's a great way to go to commercial break. We're going to take a few baby steps to commercial break and return with Michael Sandler. He's the inspiring author of Barefoot Running.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, on Amazon.
You're listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Michael Sandler, author of Barefoot Running. Okay, Michael, so you were dedicated to healing 24/7. I got that. Now, let's get into how you even considered barefoot running. How did you come up with this?
Well, I came up with it because nothing else was working. And as we were discussing earlier off the air, if the front door doesn't work, you find a way in the back door. And what that means in this case was, when I tried running again, which was first in a shoe, my body fell apart. It went from overuse injury to overuse injury. You get one thing under control, the next would go. You get that under control, the next would go. And we doctors and physical therapists and orthotic manufacturers, were constantly trying to change and adapt orthotics or insoles in my shoes to accommodate for one given problem, then the next problem, and then the next problem. And it wasn't working. And I had a history in insole design, and I couldn't get them to work. But I'd also worked with some Japanese elite-level athletes who were always laughing at me and making fun of me for wearing a heavy motion control shoe with a hard plastic orthotic, getting me way up off of the ground. And they're saying, you need to get closer to the ground. You need to be able to feel what's going on beneath your foot. And I said to myself, what I really need is something closer to the ground like that, and I need a dynamic supercomputer on the fly, something that can adjust for my feet and for those different injuries on a moment's notice. And that's when I tripped across Barefoot Running. I realized that if my feet are bare and they can feel the ground, they're going to adjust what's going on down there, and better than anything we could possibly design and put down there. And so I said, I might as well give this a try. There were studies out at the time talking about less impact, less chance of injury, stronger feet, stronger legs. So I said, what have I got to lose if I go barefoot? I'm already the walking injured. Mm-hmm. And so I gave it a try. And I started with real short distances, though. In this society, we're so quick to want to have everything now. But I realized, as somebody who wouldn't get out of bed barefoot or my plantar fascia would just kill me,
wow,
that, if I did, if I went out my usual athlete kind of way and tried to muscle through a few miles, I'd fall apart. And so what I did is I started with literally only 100 yards. I said, let's test the waters and just see what it does.
How did that first 100 yards feel?
Light.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very light. And I did it on a cement bike path, the hardest surface I could find, because I thought the harder the surface, the more feedback I get.
Oh.
And feedback will teach me. And so I was basically wanting to go in with my brain shut off, not think at all, and see what I'm told to do. And so that 100 yards, I wasn't on my heel. I was up on the front of my foot. My heel didn't even come down. It felt incredibly springy and light, and it was such a short distance, it didn't hurt my skin. Felt a couple pebbles underfoot, tiny little things. They weren't bad, and I'm like, well, that wasn't bad at all. Now, my feet, when I got home, they were not happy with me, and so I iced them on and off, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off for the rest of the day and the next day. But then I felt better, and so I went out for 200 yards and came back and repeated.
I see. So you really had to forego the impulse that many people have, like you say, immediate gratification, the weekend warrior, and take it very slow and then ice it as though almost it was an injury, correct? I mean, that's how you acclimated. You described in the book how the fat pads on the feet got thicker. And I was amazed at that, because I think as we age, they get thinner.
Yeah, and it's something, there's a lot of people before they come to one of our clinics or retreats or at our talks, and they say, well, I can't do it anymore. I don't have any fat pad left. And I would say to that, you don't have any fat pad left because you have nothing telling your feet to grow padding. The ground tells the foot what to do. And so if you're not touching the ground, why would you have foot padding down there? And so when you strip off the shoe and you go fully barefoot, the skin starts to get stronger, and the baby fat that's been going away to where we're sore even in a cushioned shoe, it comes back.
That's very reassuring, because a lot of things don't. But I guess it's like muscles and bone mass. I mean, they can increase with age. I think once you lose a joint, you're done. You can strengthen around it. So that's very encouraging. So baby boomers, I guess, who are having more issues with knees and hips, this would be great for them.
Yeah, and when you say that once you lose a joint, it's gone, well, the great news is with things like barefoot running or barefoot walking, it's a lot kinder and gentler on the joint because the joint becomes nothing more than a pivot point rather than something that's basically in a shoe, whether walking or running. It's like a hammer and an anvil. When that heel hits the ground, you're driving shock waves straight up through everything. When you're barefoot, you shift to the front of the foot, and none of that impact exists. Instead, you have a spring there. So, for instance, with 10 knee operations, I couldn't take any impact in my knee, and yet I run without any pain, and the same goes with my titanium hip. And so there's a lot we can do, even with joints that aren't as strong. We can be a lot more physically active if we shift to being more barefoot.
And change the impact, or like you say, the heel strike. So many people I know have heel spurs, and that's a result of shoes, correct?
Oh, a heel spur is absolutely caused by a shoe. What it is, in essence, is your foot is not strong enough to hold your body weight because, as you're saying, the body works in use it or lose it principle. You use it, something gets stronger. You don't. For instance, in a shoe, you give the shoe, you over-support the foot. The muscles of the foot get weak and atrophied. Well, with a weak, atrophied foot, all of your weight instead goes on the plantar fascia instead of the muscles. The plantar fascia is attached to the heel. It gets irritated. It doesn't know what to do or how to hold on, and so it starts generating a callus, which is those bony heel spurs, to try to strengthen itself to do a job that was never intended.
Well, we're going to go to commercial break. That sounds horrible. And we will return to Michael Sandler, author of Barefoot Running.
Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is the message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers.
We're back with Michael Sandler and Barefoot Running. Michael, when I first looked at your book and I said, hey, how's this going to play out in Manhattan? And then you write that that's your favorite barefoot running area. So could you explain that?
Yeah, Manhattan, there's so many people that have walked up and down the sidewalks and streets in Manhattan that the surface is actually incredibly smooth. And you have the curbs in New York City. They're all designed for cabbies to be able to pull up without hurting their wheels. And so they have a smooth edge on it, typically a metal edge on the end of the curb. And so what this means is basically New York City is a giant skate park for barefoot running. It is smooth, it is easy, it is just so much fun in New York City. So it's one of my favorite places for it.
And I don't think people would bat an eyelash in New York. Fine. Go ahead. Now, if I were to start, would you recommend a dirt trail over a paved road? How do I begin?
For day number 1, I'd say get yourself out to the park and let's play in a little bit of grass. But first, because things can hide in the grass, walk the area, because we're going to start with only 100 yards. Walk the area with your eyes peeled in a shoe. Make sure it's safe. Then go out and do your 100 yards fully barefoot. After day number 1, though, let's hit the streets. Let's get you on the sidewalk for at least the first 2 to 3 weeks because we want to get that feedback off of the ground that is going to teach you the lightest way to stride. After we get that down, then we can start moving into trails and some really fun other surfaces.
I really like that because, to me, your book is like a moving meditation, so that I'm really drawing up from the earth to my spirit and taking me back into my natural rhythm. I was very impressed with that. I wish also I would have time to discuss these wonderful exercises you had for even if you're not a barefoot runner, how, like grabbing exercises for your toes. Could you share one?
Oh, yeah. If you have a golf ball, or heck, if you're stuck at your desk, we have an easy way you can strengthen your feet. Turns out 18 out of 19 muscles and tendons of the foot attach to the toes. So if we want a strong foot, we need strong toes. If you're at your desk, you can actually start grabbing at your desk legs, or even your chair of your desk, or your chair at your desk, and start grabbing with your toes on that, which you'll notice will build up the shape of an arch. So if you grab the ground, or grab at that leg, or grab a golf ball for a minute or two a day with each foot, you start to strengthen and get a much healthier foot. And I say do it every other day to give it a chance to recover and grow stronger.
Yeah, the way we would do with weight training. You know, muscles grow in recovery. Now I'm going to ask you a funny question. What's the ideal shoe, barefoot runner that you are?
Beyond no shoe, we love moccasins, real Native American moccasins. And there are some brands being made in states right now that are really good. One is Soft Star shoes. The more moccasin-like your shoe, the flatter and closer to the ground, the wider it is around the toes, so our toes can spread, act as a spring or shock absorber. There's no arch, so your arch can work on being that natural spring. You have nothing going on in the heel. High heels, and even a traditional running shoe is a high heel at this point. Mm-hmm. They stress and strain the back. They pull on the hamstrings. They overwork the knees. So we want to be flat and close to the ground as well. And they're flexible. They're really three-dimensional to allow the foot to move more like a hand. The foot's supposed to move like tapping the keys of a piano, nice and supple when you land. And so a moccasin allows you to do that.
That's such a great image. You know, while you're talking to me about moccasins and heels, and I'm thinking of all the models who trip on the runway because they're wearing six-inch heels. Oh. I mean, how crazy is that? I hope that everybody picks up your book, and especially women, because the heels and the toe boxes throw you off alignment. I mean, as a young woman, I did wear heels, but at this age, who cares? Let the men wear high heels.
And the great news for women is if we can spend time out of the heel, we can really help both the foot and the entire body. And the bunion that's created by being stuffed into that narrow toe box actually starts to correct itself when we're out of a shoe. You can even use a device called Correct Toes. It's like a retainer for your teeth, but for your toes, that helps spread the toes back up and back out. Because bunions, they're not hereditary. What's hereditary is our footwear choices, and there's no need to be in that pain.
That was a wonderful way to conclude. That's so helpful. And I'm going to do your exercises and try it. I mean, I love the earth. I've been barefoot in my garden, but, you know, I'll try it. I'll start walking and see how this goes. I was very impressed with your book, and I urge everyone to read it and grow from it.
Well, thank you so much. People can follow us, can ask any of the questions they want also on our Facebook page, which is RunBare, RunBare. I'd hope everyone would spend even a few minutes barefoot outside or sitting on the ground outside and drain that tension away. And I say have fun and run bare.
Thank you so much. You know what? You're a soul healer. SOLEHEELER. It just came to me. I couldn't resist.
I love it.
Use it. Be well. Affirmation of the week. Are you so preoccupied with suffering that you don't see the end to your suffering? And now for the latest medical trends. A diet lacking in omega-3 fatty acids, nutrients commonly found in fish, may cause your brain to age faster and lose some of its memory and thinking abilities, according to a new study published in the journal Neurology. A study in the journal Anesthesiology found that elderly patients with mild cognitive impairment, as well as normal elderly people, those undergoing surgery experienced increased levels of brain atrophy beyond what is expected from normal aging. Simple tests such as walking speed and hand grip strength may help doctors determine how likely it is a middle-aged person will develop dementia or stroke. The EPA has lowered dioxin in the environment. Very good. However, there's still dioxin in the animal food chain. Adults, over the course of their lifetime, are not as susceptible as fetuses or infants to lower the ingestion of dioxin. Eat less, or at least leaner meat, chicken, eat more fish, low-fat or fat-free cheese and yogurt, and drink skim milk. The same diet that's good for protecting your heart and your brain will protect you from the toxic effects of dioxin, and especially note that for your children. A study on couples who broke up and got back together revealed that there was less happiness, less self-esteem, less communication, and these people who got back together again were uncertain about their future. Don't do it. Move on. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website, totally free, on stress management, turnonyourinnerlight.com. All the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure. They're also on YouTube. Turn On Your Inner Light, Debbie Mandel, you'll find it there. Subscribe to my free newsletter at turnonyourinnerlight.com. You'll get the radio shows emailed directly to you, a new stress management article, and the latest health tips and medical tips directly and fully delineated sent to you from turnonyourinnerlight.com. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.